What would you say is the most well-known Jewish symbol? Just throw out, or what is a well-known Jewish star? What else? Maybe a menorah might be one too. Shofar. So let's discuss the Jewish star. Jewish star, everybody knows that to be a prominent Jewish symbol. Question is, when I started to look into it, try to figure out when did it start to be such a prominent Jewish symbol? Everybody knows about it today. So it doesn't appear in the Talmud. It doesn't appear in the Bible. It doesn't appear in the Talmud. So I was trying to figure out when did it start becoming so popular. So you find it as a symbol. It's a Jewish symbol. There are multiple symbols around in ancient Israel. They found the earliest one. The earliest Jewish star they found on a Jewish synagogue was in the 6th century BCE in northern Israel. They found other ones from the 2nd century CE, etc. But it was a symbol amongst other symbols. I mean, you had the Jewish star, which is this one. But it appeared alongside this one, and other symbols, flowers. It wasn't like the Jewish symbol. It seems like, based on an article by Gershom Shalom, it appears that it started to really pick up with the Kabbalah, because the Kabbalah viewed the Magen David as it was on a lot of amulets, and they believed it was effective in warding off spirits. So, and they kind of went in between these two stars actually on those amulets. So it still wasn't the hexagram. So this is this one. It still wasn't this symbol, but it became more prominent a little bit after. So the Kabbalah was kind of the Middle Ages, and then later on, it started to really pick up in Prague. Apparently, it says that Emperor Charles IV in 1354 he gave the Jews the privilege to bear a flag, and they chose that symbol. It could be because the influence of the Kabbalah was already in the Jewish psyche, and they chose that symbol. But it kind of was contained in Prague for a while, and for 200 so years, it was used in Prague. The first time it appears on a Jewish tombstone was in the 17th century in Prague. And then it spread to local areas, and in the 19th century, it really picked up. And Gershom Shalom says in his article, he says it was because the Jews were looking for, it was modernity, and they were looking for a symbol, just like, Hanukkah is a very big thing, because some people say it's because, at least here in the States, it's kind of to counter the effect of Christmas. So kind of we were looking for our own symbol. And this symbol was here. It was being used. It appeared in different books and in the first pages of different books. And so they chose that symbol, and it kind of spread all around, and possibly because as a kind of like a counter to the cross of Christianity. And so it became like the Jewish symbol. And what really kind of established it as the main Jewish symbol was in 1898. It was adopted as a Zionist symbol by the Second Zionist Congress. Then the Holocaust, we know that it was used against us, and then the Jewish flag, which is kind of based on the decision of the Zionist Congress, and from then on, it's just known as the Jewish symbol. That's kind of like a little bit of the history of the Magen David, of the Jewish. Why specifically that? Why not? Why the name? Yeah. So there are some. Yeah. There's some. So it's not clear. There are some tales that David had it. That David had this symbol on his star when they were fighting, but it's not. There's no proof of that. Some people say that David's shields were in the form of like a triangle. Other people say that David might have used it as his seal, because the Daled in ancient Hebrew looks like a triangle. It's not so clear the connection. And it's interesting because Rav Moshe Feinstein also, he was big rabbi of this generation. He also couldn't figure out why they used what's the connection to David. And so he was actually asked the question, and this is kind of like trying to understand a little bit of the symbolism behind this shape. What does this mean? Can this mean for us spiritually? We learn a little bit of the history. So somebody asked him, they say, now that the Zionists, the non-religious Zionists, are using this all over the place, are we allowed to use it? They asked him this question as being a rabbi of the Jewish community, and he said, for sure we're allowed to use it. People have been using it for hundreds of years in all of our Jewish books, etc. It's like we're not going to say that they were wrong in using it just because people who are not religious are using it. And he gave an explanation for it. He said, what does this mean? He says there are 6 directions here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He says this might symbolize the fact that God is in charge of all 4 corners of the earth and above and below. That's like one explanation for it. And he said, why? So what's the connection to David? Because maybe because David had the most faith in God, who ruled over all the 4 directions and above and below. So again, that connection is not. It's hard. It's not so clear what the connection to David is. There is a tradition, though, that David in Kabbalah and the mysticism, that David had a shield, a powerful shield, and it could be like the idea that the star was used as an amulet to ward off bad spirits, and David had this spiritual shield. They kind of got combined, and that's how you got the Star of David. Just one more explanation, though, on the this is my favorite one, on the symbolism of this. So this is a Kabbalistic explanation, but it's really simple. These are basically 2 arrows, one pointing up and one pointing down. And the idea is that Judaism's main focus is always kind of trying to connect heaven and earth, and we don't have necessarily too much friction between them. We want to try to unite them, combine them, elevate the physical, make blessings over the food that we eat, celebrate our family, be engaged in the world, but still maintain our spirituality and our holiness. And I think that's a really powerful one. I think that might be a reason why. I don't know if that's a reason, but I think that's a nice way to explain why it's so popular, because that's really our main goal, is to connect heaven and earth, and I think that's something powerful to think about when you look at the Magen David.